I'm probably the only person at this conference who can say that I have actually been in the games industry for 40 years. My first game was published in 1976, before they were home computers, right? So it was a board game. I've designed more than 30 commercially published games in a wide variety of genres and platforms and environments. But since 2009, I've been working on free-to-play. In the schedule, it says that I am a senior game designer for Boss Fight Entertainment. Actually, my last day at Boss Fight was Friday. Next month I will be starting with Backflip Studios in Boulder. Just to give a sense of context there, nothing wrong with Boss Fight if you don't mind living in a car-dependent North Dallas suburb. I'm a New Yorker, and it drove me nuts, and I'm very glad to be getting out of Texas. The job was fine, the people are fine, it's a good place to work if you don't mind. Okay, so the title of my talk is Pay for Pleasure and Not for Pain, which is a very unusual topic for me because I don't usually talk about monetization. I usually talk about design issues. But having been in free-to-play, there's a lot of intersection between game design and monetization approaches in the free-to-play environment, and I just want to talk a little bit about it. So, why do we make games? Everyone in this audience can probably make more money doing something else. If you're an engineer, you could make more money by going and doing productivity software. If you're an artist, you can probably make more money doing something else. Even me, I've got a resume that says game design. It would probably be hard for me to get a job doing anything else. But even so, I used to work for an investment bank, and if I'd stuck with that, I'm sure I'd be making more money today. We make games because we love them. And if you're in this industry and you don't love games, I don't know what the hell you're doing here, right? Everyone in this room, I suspect, got into the industry because they love games. So, why do we love games? Very simply, because they surprise and delight us. That moment when you see something amazing in World of Warcraft, or when you figure out how to beat the boss in Zelda. I don't know what your favorite game is, but whatever your favorite game is, there was a moment playing that game when it surprised and delighted you, and you loved it. Now, there was this kind of feeling in the part of a lot of people outside of the free-to-play environment that free-to-play is evil, and the main reason that people say free-to-play is evil is because the nature of the monetization necessarily impacts the design, and not necessarily in ways that make it a better game, right? And that is true. That is a legitimate criticism, but it's also true that business models affect games in whatever medium you're working in. If you are doing a conventional commercial release game, it's very likely that someone is going to come from your publisher with a checklist of items that they want to see for marketing reasons that you're going to have to put into your game, regardless of whether or not it actually meshes with what you want to do with that game. And it's also very common for there to be some new hotness that suddenly you have to, reshape your design. Bullet time. We need to have bullet times. Like, well, it doesn't really make sense. I'm doing a match 3 game, but no, we have to have bullet time. So yeah, commercial pressures affect the design, but that's true in every medium. And it doesn't have to be crippling in a free-to-play environment. Now, I actually love free-to-play because we're like freaking Robin Hood. We're taking from the rich and giving to the poor. We're charging a handful of people who have the capacity and willingness to pay in order to provide free gameplay to a much wider audience of people. And as a designer, it means that my work is played and appreciated by a much larger audience than it would be if everybody had to pay $60 ahead of time in order to play the game. I mean, Occupy should love us. We're taking from the 1% and giving to the 99. I'm only being mildly facetious here. However, over the course of traditionally our monetization strategies have been based on imposing pain and offering the opportunity to pay to overcome that pain. We do things like, you initiate an upgrade, it's going to take 8 days, give us money. Or you hit a level that's freaking impossible to beat. Maybe you can do it in 50 tries, or you can buy a power-up. Or you get to the point where leveling up a card is going to take 2 months of grind, or you can pay. So, this does have the advantage that it works, but it also has a disadvantage. Those pinch points, those frustrating blocks reduce player retention. For some, hitting that kind of pinch point is a rage quit moment. It's a time when they set down the game and depart. For others, they may pay, but they'll feel resentful and kind of icky about it afterwards, because I paid you to overcome this transparent roadblock, but it's the next time it happens, I'm less inclined to pay. But never mind the impact on player retention. This is not what we as developers want, and it's not what our customers want. And it directly contradicts the entire ethos of our medium. We make games because we love games. Our players play because they love games. We want our players to love our games, and we want our players to love us. We want a community of players who share and boast about their accomplishments and help out noobs and look forward to the next update. And when they pay, feel happy with the rewards they get and happy that they're helping to sustain such a great game and happy that the developers are sensitive to their needs and listen to their concerns and care as much about the game as they do, as the game's greatest fans care. So what we really want to do, we want our customers to pay for pleasure, not for pain. We want to reward generously. We want to offer tempting rewards, and remember to let them into, whatever. Hey, Jude. So what are some approaches? Monthly cards are a useful approach. This is from Walking Dead, Road to Survival, but lots of games have monthly cards. And the thing about it is, for not a lot of money, this is actually the most expensive monthly card I've seen. Most games are like $3 to $5. For not a lot of money, you get some really kind of tasty rewards. Here you're getting 70 coins a day plus 250 at the moment, and if at the 30th day you're going to get a 4-star character, that's totally worth $10. So the advantage here is, firstly, people look at this and say, that they're being generous with me. That's not a lot of money, and I'm getting rewards for it. And yeah, I like the game, I like the developers, I'm willing to pay that. And it has the other advantage that you've now just gotten somebody over that initial payment hump, right? And it also has the advantage that it's really limited in what it gives you. If I am a whale and I'm willing to drop $1,000 into this game, it's like, yeah, I'll go for the monthly card, but that's not enough coins to be able to really do what I want to do, and I'm still going to be willing to spend that money. So you're not really reducing any potential monetization here. You're really only increasing it, and players look at it and say, I'm being generous. Now, a lot of people feel that gacha in games is a bad thing. I actually think it's a good thing. The criticism is that it's gambling. It's not gambling. It's like I bought a Magic the Gathering pack and I opened it up and I got tasty, interesting cards. So if you do this right and the rewards from the gacha feel good and meaningful to people are going to like it. And of course, you should have a soft currency portal as well as a hard currency portal. Sure, why not? Be generous with your players. But in addition to gacha, you also want to allow directed purchases sometimes. Not always. Like you never want to say everything in the game can be purchased at any given time for a fixed amount. You want to present opportunities for people to pay for things that they specifically want. Clash Royale does a really good job of this. And you want to have events that encourage people to really get into the game and play intensively for a period of time. And you want to vary those and, have them on a really frequent cadence in order to make people feel that the game is alive, that as developers, you are continuing to produce new content and create opportunities for people to play, and that it's not just a static thing there. And finally, you want to put the call to monetization on rewards, not on penalties. Again, Clash Royale does this, I think, really well, rather than, this is a timer and I'm paying to overcome the timer, but the reason I'm paying is because I get to see the cool stuff I've acquired here. And finally, you want to really think about how the social aspect of your game works, because fundamentally, if you can get people into a guild and they interact with members of the guild, you're going to retain them, and the guild will provide pressure towards monetization. It's like, guys, we need to work together. You're lagging here. Spend a little money, at least buy the monthly card. I've heard this from, happened to me in Heroes Charge. I was in a guild at a really high level. In order for us to maintain competitive, I was under pressure from my guildmates to spend. This is from Rival Kingdoms, which is kind of an iffy design in a lot of ways, but I think Space Ape thinks more about the social aspects of games and how to make them work than almost any other developer. You can see that, these are my guildmates here, right? And there's social proof that I can see them in the kingdom and know what their role within the kingdom is. And don't slap users in the face. If you go play a game of war, like every time the thing loads, you're slapped in the face with a dialogue asking you to give them money. It's like, Yeah, I get it. Machine Zone are money-grubbing assholes, and I don't want to give them money, right? You know, every time you have the opportunity to hey, there's going to be a button there that has gems on it. It's not like people are going to forget that they can give you money, right? Also, be very careful to think your economy through. I'm going to give you an anecdote from Dungeon Boss, which I did not work on, and I think the reason I can say this is because this is from the public forums, from the public Big Fish forums. So if you wanted to go, you could find out this story without my telling you about it. When Dungeon Boss launched, you know, in Dungeon Boss you can star up your characters with tokens, right? And you can get to the point where you've got the 6 star, you've reached the maximum with the character. And when Dungeon Boss launched, even if you had a character at 6 stars, you could get a portal pull and get more tokens for them, which were totally useless to you. Now, of course, what they should have done is what Heroes Charge launched with. Heroes Charge has a system whereby excess tokens get converted into dust, and there is a dust store that you can use to purchase content that is only available through the dust store, right? So even though you've reached a maximum, the stuff you're getting still has some value to you. But Dungeon Boss launched without that. And at some point, somebody on the design side said, well, we have this problem where people have 6-star characters and they're getting useless tokens. So what we'll do is we'll change the portal so that you never get tokens for characters that are at 6 stars. The problem with this is now you have a player who is monetized very heavily and has 6-starred all the characters in the game, and you introduce a new character and they go to the portal, and for $20 they can 6-star that character because only the tokens for the new character are going to pull. So what you're doing is you're charging your players with the greatest propensity to spend less money for content. Totally the opposite of what you want to do. So they introduced a Heroes Charge, like they call it the Ether Store, and there was a huge uproar on the part of the community. They hated this because we were taking something away from them. We were saying instead of being able to, you know, get new content very easily, it's going to be a much harder grind and much more expensive for you in future. If we had launched with the Ether Store at the beginning of the game, there would never have been a problem. People would just have said that's how the game is, right? But the fact that we changed it was a problem. And we had to change it. We totally had to change it for monetization reasons. But the point is, be very careful to think your game economy through before you launch. You never want to try to fix these problems post-launch. You want to make sure that you've got your ducks in a row before you launch. And when developing new content, don't ignore your free players. This is something that a lot of games do. Every new thing that they develop and launch and add to the game is designed purely to improve monetization. There's nothing wrong with that, but you also should show some love to your players. Give the non-payers new content as well. You always want to have one vector of progress that players can't buy. In Dungeon Boss, for example, that's player XP. In Clash of Clans, it's trophies. The reason for this is because you don't want to have a situation where somebody can dump $10,000 into your game and buy it on day one. Because it's much better to get $500 out of someone over 6 months than it is to get $500 out of someone on day one. The reason for that is because over that 6 months, they're going to be in the game, they're going to be playing, they're probably going to be running a guild. People are going to come over to their house and ask what you're playing, and they're going to say, oh, I'm playing this. You'll acquire more users, you'll encourage other people to monetize more effectively, and so on. Now, this is kind of a heresy, I think. Hard currency only content is okay if you do it with care and conscience, and if there is a way for players to get a trickle of hard currency even without monetizing, right? Because then they can say, well, I can grind for it, and yes, it's going to be a really hard grind without paying, but it's still feasible, and it's still accessible to the players. And another kind of heresy, pay to win is okay too if it is not core to your game, if it is peripheral to the game. So for example, in Dungeon Boss, PvP is kind of pay to win. If I star up my characters because I monetize, I may be, let's say I'm level 10, but I've got all my characters at 6 stars. I'm going to totally blow people away because I'm matched against people of comparable level, and I've got much better characters at that level. But PvP in Dungeon Boss is peripheral, it's secondary. You can totally play the game forever with pretty much ignoring PvP. And so you can say, I see the payers are going to win there, so look, I don't care, I'm going to go do the other stuff in the game. Similarly, Clash of Clans is totally not a pay-to-win game in a sense, because all you can really do is progress through the content faster, and you're always matched against people of comparable power. But it is pay-to-win if you want to be at the top of the leagues and be on the leaderboards, because the only effective way to do that is to continue to pay to instantly regenerate your army and keep on grinding for trophies. So there is one aspect of that game that is pay to win, but the rest of it is totally not pay to win, and players do not really perceive it as pay to win. So yes, we can. We can monetize effectively. We can make players feel like they get value for money. We can keep players happy and active for long periods of time. As players, they will feel love for the developers, and as developers, we will feel great that we're providing, cool content and gameplay to players instead of being cynical about extracting the maximum amount of money from them. You just need to design with conscience and care, feel empathy for your players, payers and non-payers alike, and think things through. That's it.
Yeah, I had a question about gacha systems. I worked with a development team called Three Rings that decided to provide drop rates for the players. And not only did that not cause monetization problems, but it built trust. It was great, actually, because it gave players the ability to have enough information to make a smart purchase decision. It's kind of tough if someone says, hey, you have 2 times the chance of getting this card this weekend if the original chance was 0.05%, and you don't know that. So what are your thoughts on just disclosing drop rates?
It's an interesting thought. I don't know I've never heard of anyone else who has done that, although of course I know Three Rings. It doesn't sound like a bad idea to me.
Kind of going off that, another gotcha question. So what are your thoughts on reward scheduling? Specifically, maybe you don't know exactly which, 6-star unit you're going to get, but you know that if you pull 50 pulls, on the 50th pull, you're going to get some kind of benefit.
I think it makes a lot of sense, particularly if you offer like a 10... So, in Dungeon Boss we do this. Like, you can buy a one-time pull, or you can do 10 pulls at the same time. And we'll tell you, with the 10 pulls, you're guaranteed at least 5 rares, something like that, right? And that kind of thing to motivate purchase, I think, makes a lot of sense. And it also feels better to players. It's like, I know I'm going to get something good.
Hey, really liked your talk. It was awesome. Just talking about guilds and having that social pressure to monetize. Any insights on specific mechanics that you felt really pushed you that way?
So, in the case of Hero's Charge, it really was a function of the fact that they have servers, and everyone on the server pretty much came into the game at the same time. So the top ranked people in the server and the top and on the leaderboards are this one little cohort of people, and so it's easy to see that we're at the top rank here, and there is this kind of pressure to keep us progressing level by level as much as possible in order to be competitive with other people on our server.
So the first rush to be end game, top leaderboard when a game is fresh and new kind of thing, being the server first is obviously compelling.
Well, but see, what Heroes Church does is they launch a new server on a regular cadence. So that whole cohort is kind of progressing at the same time. Which has a negative side as well, because they've never engineered the ability for you to move from one server to another. So if it's like my sweetie also played Heroes Charge, and we could not play together because we were in different servers.
Greg, you said you're moving on. Are you staying in the free-to-play world? Do
Yeah.
you feel like you're a free-to-play guy now?
It's partly that, but also who else is going to hire me? So in 2009, I shut down Manifesto Games and started looking for a job. And it's like, at that point, free-to-play, mostly social games, was a big thing. And it was kind of like the old Game Designers Full Employment Act. Like Steve Boretsky, Dave Rorrell, me, all these old guys got hired to do free-to-play stuff. So it's like, could I get a job doing console development? Probably not.
Well, there's some mobile games that aren't free-to-play.
Yeah, that's true. But
do you feel like... do you feel like free-to-play, do you feel like you're compromised as a designer? Because you're designing around monetization now, not pure gameplay.
No, I don't think so.
Doesn't bother you?
As I said, as a designer, I was under commercial pressures in the non-free-to-play world as well. And they're different, and the challenges are different, but I don't view it as different in kind.
Do you ever have a moment where you feel like, wow, I just compromised, the gameplay because I had to make that monetization work. Do you ever have that?
Occasionally, but more often it's, it's like, well, how do we do this? How do we solve this problem? Is there a way for us to? I mean, in some cases, it actually improves it. The project I was working on, a boss fight, went through a pivot 3 months ago, where we got to the point that we were thinking, just Gacha just doesn't fit with this style of game. It's like, well, what can we do to make it work? And we completely changed our combat system, and it's a much better game for it.
So I work with the Thinking Ape, and we have 4 different kind of games. One of them's a bit older, Kingdoms at War. And we often are running in-game events kind of thing with like exclusive rewards and all of that stuff. And I was curious on your thoughts of progressing to get this short-term reward and really grinding hard, whether you would consider that a painful experience and the ability to monetize to get there better, if that's good, or if there is a better way to do that.
Well, I think it depends. So, and it depends a lot on specific characteristics. So, in Walking Dead, they have their Guild Wars system is not not always on, right? Every once in a while, like every 2 or 3 weeks, they will have a weekend event in which you can do Guild Wars. And I had a lot of fun doing that. It's like intensive play for a short period of time, and it feels good, and I'm communicating with my guildmates at the same time. That works really effectively. But then something like Dominations has these regular events that are kind of like grind a lot, and we give you a thing that you get to keep for 2 weeks. It's like, that doesn't feel good. Yeah. So it really designing good events is a thing in its own right? So.
Follow up to that, sounds like the weekend events you really liked. Would you say there's a sweet spot for event length of like that intense grind, and is what's too long, what's too short?
Yeah, totally. And also depends on. So, Samurai Siege now has a different Guild War system, but when it first launched, its Guild War system was, in essence, over the course of 24 hours, maximize the number of trophies you get, and you get a leaderboard rank, and that gives you rewards. And I actually spent a weekend playing one of these Guild Wars, and it basically required me to keep my phone live for 8 continuous hours in order to participate. And I thought it was kind of compelling, and I could see why people would monetize. And at the end of it, I realized that I had spent more gems than I got as a reward. It's like, why don't give gems as a reward if you're going to, under these circumstances? And it's like, well, I'm never doing that again. So yeah, event length is definitely a concern, and also how much of a time commitment of a time sink is required is a concern as well.
Thoughts about Pokemon?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
I'm not sure there's much gameplay there yet, but I assume that they will be adding more stuff over time.
So I had a guy this morning who made a really interesting observation. He said, Pokemon, it has like the worst, most under-designed UI. All the gameplay is hidden behind menu, which is true. Like, most of the gameplay I didn't even realize until people pointed it out to me. Mm-hmm. And then he went on to say that he thought that was brilliant, and that made it a better game because you didn't have to think about a bunch of buttons that you didn't understand. You just played the game. Mm-hmm. We couldn't put an exact, we couldn't determine if it was on purpose or not. Was it just a happy accident, or were they just pure geniuses? Any thoughts on that?
Well, given the amount of time I have spent dicking around with Fatuis, if I can work on a game where I don't have to do that, I would be very happy. So yeah, I can certainly,
We've had some wonderful Pokemon here in this room today. So I check every 20 minutes or so, mm-hmm. and no Pikachu though.
Yeah, so the one thing I am sad about is I bought a bike share membership, and I've been biking back and forth to my hotel, and apparently I bicycle fast enough that it doesn't.
Oh, it's too fast to catch a Pokestop?
Yeah.
But on a bicycle, it's pretty easy to slow down.
True.
I did a Uber from the airport, and I must have caught like 25 Pokestops. When we got into the city, because you slow down for turns, and it was great.
The other thing I will say is the density of infrastructure of Poke infrastructure in San Francisco is astonishing by comparison to Texas.
By the way, in comparison to Los Angeles, it's 4 or 5x denser here, And I can't imagine, does anyone here live somewhere rural, like just while out in the country? And how's your Pokemon experience? I mean, Greg, I've been in the industry for 30 years. I've never seen anything on this level of phenomena. There's nothing even close. It's kind of crazy. And everyone's talking about it,
Yep.
from a design standpoint. And it's like suddenly AR, even though it's not really an AR game, but everybody wants to do AR now. So I'm working on my next AR project if anyone wants to fund it. So it's called Mon Poke. Great.
Yeah.
So no more questions, Greg. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Greg, you talk fast, but there was a lot of great content in there.
Oh, thanks.